Chapter 3, Section 4 is called Find and Use Slopes of Lines. So like I said, a lot of this is review, if not all of it, is review from algebra. So hopefully it seems vaguely familiar, okay? So we talk about what is slope. Slope of a non-vertical line is the ratio of the change in y, or the vertical change, to the change in x, or the horizontal change. The symbol for slope is a lowercase italicized m. If you're given 2 points and asks you to find the slope of a line that connects those 2 points, then you use y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, this is also called rise over run. So change in y, or vertical change over change in x. So you'll be asked to find slope a lot of different ways. From an equation, from 2 sets of points in which you would use this, from the graph in which you could count your rise over your run. God bless you. It basically affects how steep or flat your line is. Okay, there are 4 different kinds of slope. Positive slope, which rises as you move to the right. Negative slope falls as you move to the right. Zero slope would be for a horizontal line, which would have an equation of y equals a number without an x. And then undefined slope, which would be for a vertical line. You're welcome. And the equation would be x equals a number without a y. So if you've ever run on a treadmill, you can think about slope almost as an incline. The higher the incline, the higher the number, the steeper the climb, right? So positive slope would raise it as if you were walking up a hill. Negative would be as if you were walking down a decline. 0 is flat. So if you ever set your incline on a treadmill at 0, obviously it's flat, right? And then undefined, if you could somehow get your treadmill to go straight up and down and still be able to walk on it, okay, I'd be pretty impressed. But there's no grip there. There's no slope, and it'd be undefined, okay? So when you see the words no slope, it's the same thing as undefined. Low slope does not mean that the slope is 0. It means the slope does not exist. It is undefined. So the bottom 2 are things you have to memorize because you may not always have points to plug in. Okay, you could create points to plug them in, but you'd have to know that if it was a y equals a number, so let's say that this is y equals 1 because it's passing through 1, that would be a horizontal line and it has 0 slope. If it's an x equals a number, so let's say that this is x equals 2, this would be a vertical line with no slope or undefined slope. Okay, the steepness of the line, the greater the absolute value of the line slope, the steeper the line. So ignoring the negative or positive on the front, just looking at the number that's there, the greater the number, the steeper it is. If it was 1 over 2, okay, it's going to go up 1 and over 2. If it was 10 over 1, now it's going to go up 10 and over 1, so it's going to be a steeper line. Okay, slopes of parallel lines. So in a coordinate plane, 2 non-vertical lines are parallel if and only if they have the same slope. So they say non-vertical because you can't compare to undefined things. Okay? But if the rest of them, if they have the same slope, whether it be positive or negative or 0, they would be parallel. Okay? And then perpendicular lines have slopes that are the opposite reciprocal of each other. So the opposite sign, if one is positive, the other is negative, and vice versa. If one is negative, then the other is positive. And reciprocal, meaning I flip them. So the numerator of one becomes the denominator of the other. The product of these two would be -1. So if I multiply the slopes of 2 perpendicular lines, I would get -1. And horizontal lines are perpendicular to vertical lines. That should make sense, right? If I have a straight line running left to right and then a straight line running up and down, they should meet at a 90-degree angle, which would mean that they were perpendicular. All right, so this one says to complete with sometimes, always, or never. Remember, is it possible as sometimes? Does it have to be as always? And is it impossible as never? All right, so the slope of a vertical line is blank 0. Never. It would be what? No slope or undefined, right? Okay. B, the slope of a horizontal line is blank 0. Always. C, the slope of a line that rises to the right is blank positive. Always. And the slope of a line that falls to the right is blank negative. Easy stuff, right? Questions on those? Okay, example 2 says find the slope of a line through the 2 points that are named. So they're giving you the 2 points this time. Let's say this is x1 and y1. x2, y2. We're going to plug this into y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So 5 minus 4 over negative 4 minus a negative 3 minus a negative becomes positive, and this would be 1 over negative 1, which is negative 1. All right, so for B, negative 2 minus a negative 3 over negative 1 minus 6, you should have gotten negative 1/7. Everybody good on that one? C, you got negative 4 minus a negative 4, which becomes negative 4 plus 4, over negative 3 minus 8, and I get 0 over negative 11. So 0 divided by a number is what? 0, okay? And the other one, I get 9 minus a negative 2, so this becomes plus 2. 11 over 6 minus a negative 6, which is 0. What happens when you divide by 0? Undefined, okay? So it should make sense if you actually plot these points. I'd get 8, negative 4, and negative 3, negative 4. I get a horizontal line, so it should be consistent with the fact that the slope would be 0. And then if I were to plot D, I'd get negative 6, lost count, negative 6, negative 2, negative 6, 9, and this would be a vertical line, which again should be consistent with undefined slope. Questions on any of those? Just be careful with your signs. Those is just not paying attention to the signs. All right, this one says complete the table for R is parallel to S and R is perpendicular to S. So if it's parallel, then what's true about the slope? It's the same. So if R is negative 1/2, has a slope of negative 1/2, then S has a slope of negative 1/2. And what is true if it's perpendicular? The opposite reciprocal. So I change the sign. This would now become positive, right? And I flip. So 1 over 2 becomes what when it's flipped? 2 over 1 or just 2. Okay, so for B, it gave you T. So you're working backwards. If T is 1/6, then what are R and S? Negative 6. Okay, those should always be the same. C, they give you S, which means R is the same, right? 1/5. And T would be what? Negative 5. D, they give you S. D would be, R would be negative 4, and T 1/4. Okay. E and F both have variables involved. It's the same exact process. So if I'm to change the sign on the A, it would be what? Negative. And if I flip A over 1, it becomes 1 over A. Okay. And then the last one, 3B over 4. What would it be if I flip it and negate it? Good. Negative 4 over 3B, and this would be the same. So don't let the variable scare you. It's the exact same process. Questions on any of those? All right, this one says, if R was parallel to S and R is a horizontal line, what's the slope of S? So what do we know about the slope of horizontal lines? It's 0, and if they're parallel, it's the same. So the slope should be 0, or M equals 0. Okay, the other way to remember, like the horizontal and 0, is if you look at the word horizontal, it has the zeros in it. Okay, that should help you remember too. Okay, 5 says if K is perpendicular to N and N has slope 0, what's the slope of K? Undefined. Good. If they're perpendicular and one is vertical, then the other is horizontal. One slope is 0, the other would be undefined or no slope. Questions? Good. Easy stuff, right? Good.